Today's topic is not one that's particularly relevant to everyone listening, but it is to some of you, and that's training considerations to make after the age of 40. Alright, so if you're an old head like I am, there's a couple of things you need to take into account that differentiate how we should train versus our younger selves, younger counterparts. First and foremost, let's address the people that have had a long layoff. Like, you used to be an athlete, but you haven't done anything in 5, 10, 15 years, or maybe you're just getting started, right? So, if you're new to this whole fitness thing, alright, avoid too much too soon. And for those of you that have been athletes before, try not to start right where you left off. When you're new to this whole fitness, lifting, cardio, diet thing, you're going to experience beginner gains, newbie gains, regardless of your chronological age, even if you're 40, 50, 60, 70, or 80 years old, because in terms of training age, you're still very young. So that addresses the beginners. For the former athletes there, muscle memory, myonuclear domain, these are all things. Your body is going to remember the things that you've patterned it to do after many, many weeks, months, years, thousands of repetitions, all right? Those things, those skills will come back to you, and pretty soon the tissues will remember how they needed to be in order for you to be proficient in those skills. So you're going to get a lot of that back quickly too. There's no reason in either case, beginner or former athlete, to train too hard too soon, to pull really hard on those levers, because inevitably what can happen, burnout notwithstanding, is you're not inured to the stresses of training just yet, either from your many-year layoff or just for the fact that you've never done this consistently before. So you have to condition yourself to be able to do this sustainably. You don't want to do too much too soon and immediately run into an injury and then have to stop when you just got started. I know you want the results right now, but the first thing is just to establish sustainable habits. We want to do what we can. That dovetails nicely into the next thing, which is that whether or not you're a beginner or you're just getting back into it, you want to focus more on GPP over SPP. Now, what does that mean, and what's the difference between the two? GPP, or general physical preparedness, is just that. You're not working on skills specific to a particular sport or activity. You're just doing things that kind of generally raise the physical competency of the organism. So like, for instance, you do squats, right? Squats will make you marginally faster, marginally stronger overall, definitely stronger in the legs, but they're not going to make you a better soccer player or a better basketball player or a better MMA fighter. It just raises general attributes a little bit. Whereas SPP are things specific to a sport, like rolling for jiu-jitsu, or sparring, or small side games for field sports, things of this nature. The reason why you want to focus on GPP over SPP is that most sport-specific training requires a certain foundational robustness in terms of the tissue specificity for the sport. What do I mean by that? Let's take a sport like basketball, for instance, right? When you're young, you don't think about it. You just, you dribble the ball, you move around, you run, change directions, jump, you might take a couple spills on the ground, no big deal. Well, after 40, especially if you're untrained, new, or you've, had a long layoff, several years or even decades, and you go right into playing a couple games as your exercise, well, your tissues, specifically your knee and ankle tissues, aren't inured to the forces you're going to subject them to. So it behooves you to do, a couple months worth at least of GPP to kind of get your body resilient enough so that you can actually use it to do the sport that you want to play. It's why the military, for instance, even during war times, has a basic training. That's like GPP for military stuff. You do some rucking, you do some PT, you do some land nav, you do some range time, and that just kind of gets you generally prepared to do Army stuff. Then you go to your specific school, if you're an MI guy or a infantry guy or special operations or whatever it is that you do, mechanic, whatever. Then you go to your school and you get your SPP. Well, training after 40 in the gym or just exercise in general, whatever it is you want to do, whether it's surfing, basketball, jiu-jitsu, whatever, is much like that, okay? You can't just say, I want to join the Army, and then they send you overseas to deploy. Like, you're not ready for that yet, you know? You need to condition yourself for the stresses that you're going to endure doing your sport. So that's why when you're older, especially if you're new or after a layoff, you want to focus more on the GPP so that you can then kind of ease into the fun stuff that you want to do later. Okay, that dovetails into the next topic. It's kind of bifurcated. We're going to talk about fatigue management, but two specific aspects of fatigue management. One is the fact that after 40, you just don't recover, not as completely, but as quickly. Maybe in some cases not as completely either, but my personal experience, and at least based off of the literature that I've read, you'll recover, it just takes longer. And what that should mean to you is that sleep matters a lot more when you're older than it does when you're younger. Even in my early 30s, I could, go pal around with the lads in, downtown Seattle, throw down an absurd amount of alcohol, and then wake up 3 hours later and go run 10 miles like it was nothing. If I tried to do that now, I might be able to do it once and then be wrecked for the next, 3-4 days. It's just not worth it. So recovery is key. You're going to have to prioritize sleep. And this is a major reason why a lot of people after 40 have trouble staying fit, because with work, life, family, all these additional adult/professional stresses, it's very difficult to prioritize training, work, life, family, and sleep, right? Something's got to give. And usually it's the training, and then the sleep, and then the other stuff. Then the other thing that often gets overlooked with older athletes that have work, job, life stress, besides fatigue management, or rather that we cut corners on, is nutrition, okay? And by nutrition, I don't just mean calories and macronutrients. I also mean hydration and micronutrients, okay? Of course, there's the elephant in the room that most of us after 40 can't really eat whatever we want and stay lean. But aesthetics, appearance notwithstanding, adiposity notwithstanding, in terms of health and performance, we may be missing out on some of our key micronutrient needs because of just the dietary habits that we've adopted in order to get through the hustle and bustle of our adult lives. Just having coffee and whatever junk food that's available at the office, like donuts and stuff, isn't going to support your training. And this is why my last recommendation to those of you over 40 that want to get back into or into newly this fitness thing is that at a minimum annually, but better biannually and best quarterly, you get some blood work done so you can see what your specific nutritional requirements are. You can get an EGFR done and see how your kidneys work, a 25-hydroxy to check out your vitamin D levels. You can see your testosterone to estradiol ratio to know if you need TRT or not and to try to suss out why. Cookie cutter programs and general recommendations and even videos like this will help get you on the paper. But in order to dial in your shot group, there's nothing like checking under the hood and doing some comprehensive blood work so that you can know what your specific needs are. Other than that, folks, it's pretty much the same as it was when you're younger, right? Diet, training, and exercise. But now you can't go as hard, so being consistent is even more important than it was back in the day. So stay in the fight. Thanks for watching.